afternoon, everyone, depending where you are in the world. Today, I have a special guest, Daniel Acutt from TeamUp. We are going to speak about one of the most disrupting apps in the market. But before we go there, Daniel, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So this is also the first place that you're going to hear it, is that we've actually rebranded our company to Profiletest.ai. So when we talk about who we are, what we do, etc., it's all about revolutionizing human potential and evolving into this kind of space where, we've been using AI for over 2 years in our company. However, now it's now at the forefront of over 80% of the work that we do. So, very, very exciting time. And as you said, you spoke about Teamer App. Teamer App is still the application that is all about disrupting the way that people are, learning about their teams and putting people in the right place, etc. as well. So that's what we do. And so great to be here with you. Thank you, Bogdan.
Now, Daniel, can we go a little bit back in time? And can you please share with us when did your entrepreneurial journey start? And what was the trigger to, to say, I don't want to work 8 to 5. I want to be my own business. I want to be a business owner. I want to be my own boss. I want to be an entrepreneur.
It's an interesting question, because many entrepreneurs work with other entrepreneurs over their career, right? And while they're doing their business, they're working for other entrepreneurs in business. My first business, or my first taste of entrepreneurship, was when I was about 10 years old. And I had two best friends. Our parents were part of a divorcees club, and so we were just naturally best friends. And we were very naughty, but we needed cash, like we needed money to buy things, buying whatever it was for the computer and all the rest of it. So the first idea came, to leverage one of my friends' house, where they had this beautiful big deck. And we actually set up a restaurant for a day, where we made flyers, we put them into all of the neighbors' post boxes. And to our amazement, we were so busy. We had a queue around the corner of people coming to, to buy these, what we called boerewors rolls, which is a South African term, which is like it's a kind of sausage, a farmer's sausage. So that in like a hot dog roll, with burgers and all the rest of it. And of course, my responsibility was the kingpin. I was collecting the money, right? And so at that point was the first kind of exposure to running a business and making sure that everyone was doing stuff that they needed to do, which was just fantastic. So that's the beginning part for me.
You've tasted from a young age how it is to become an entrepreneur. When it comes to teenager time and adult time, I presume you went into other industries, and then you were looking to find what will best suit for yourself. How the TeamUp idea came up?
Yeah, I mean, the beginning part is interesting, because most people, especially me, you have no idea what career you want to go into. You kind of see things that look interesting and you're like, oh, I'd like to learn more about that. And you don't think at the time that you can turn it into a career. At the time, it's more about what you find interesting and what you want to learn. And I was really a kind of person that didn't fit in at school at all as well. I wasn't good at many subjects except one subject where I had full control over, which was at the time was called technical drawing, and it was a precursor to architecture, basically, where you learnt about all the different angles, and you learnt about the drawings and the depth and all that kind of stuff. And I was really good at that. Like I was in one of the top in my year for that, whereas everything else was a huge gap. The scoring and points of everything else was much lower. And even to the point, and I tell this story often, that, studying mathematics or science or accounting, you just I wasn't good at it at all. But then finding, tertiary education, I was fortunate enough to study in Switzerland, and I studied hotel and business management there, in a place called Montreux, which most people know. That's where they have the Montreux Jazz Festival and all the rest of it. And what's interesting about this story is that that environment was a much more successful environment for me to study. So going from nearly failing accounting and everything at school to becoming a financial, a managerial, what was it called? Managerial accounting study advisor. So being able to teach other people how to do managerial accounting, and financial management. So you just think about that in like how dumb are we actually? And it's not based on a curriculum. It's based on, for me, the environment that people are in and how that environment helps them to succeed. So that's a key point about that.
We opened the door now. In high school, I've studied, basically, I'm a plumber by profession. After college, I'm a plumber. But I'm telling you, the science we've done in high school in Romania, like I've done chemistry, advanced chemistry. Like, I mean, we were in the lab and mixing all kind of gases and make all kind of stuff. Physics and maths. I was major in maths. I don't know how I managed to finish my high school. Like, I've passed my leaving cert 5 for maths, which was enough. But the amount of science we've done in high school, I moved to Ireland, and then later on my journey, I decided, I always wanted to do IT. So I went to study IT, and I found out that the maths we've done as plumbers in Romania, in like the high school, it's a little bit different. You have 4 years of secondary school. So in my maths in secondary school was the maths we've done in university in the 3rd year in Ireland. Just now to compare how advanced we were. Like, after we finished all the drawing, technological stuff, all that, I've done all this. Like, if I close my eyes, I even now I can do all the system from where you take the water until the last user. Different times. Now, going back to our stuff. So how comes you went into the profiling? Like, from accounting to profiling, again, it's a huge step. It's a huge, it's a total different industry, total different set of skills. You need to be able to do that. And from what I've seen, I know I'm still going to call it team up. I know is disrupting and is going to disrupt the industry because of what you've managed to do. So how comes this huge step?
Studying for me in a tertiary education was never about a career. It was about information, and it was about being able to be equipped to make better decisions about anything, right? And I think that that's a key point about education for me is, at school, we're not equipped to make decisions. We're equipped to follow orders. And, tertiary education kind of exposes this thought process into, okay, you can now make a decision about what you want to study, the career path, that kind of stuff, and how in depth you go forward from there. The interesting thing for me in terms of moving into profiling was all by chance. And the story is that after studying hospitality, I had an amazing career. I worked in massive yachts for Russian billionaires. I worked in private golf courses. I ran restaurants. Like, it was a really, really exciting time and a lot of fun, in that kind of career. But I spent a lot of my time in my major study was events. So why I studied events? Because I love big scale events. Like, we used to put plans together for 5, 10, 50,000 people, logistics plans on how you move people from A to B and how that all works. And I love that stuff. I love that strategy. But that moved into me running events. And eventually I I ran an event for an entrepreneur whose name was Brian Walsh, a South African entrepreneur, quite well known in the personal development space. And he ran a lot of
Mm.
events and he ran a lot of training programs. And he really was a fantastic teacher about getting people access to the right training and information. And that built his company. And, I ran an event for them and he said to me, instead of sitting at the back of the room, why don't you participate? Which I thought at the time was, yeah, okay, that's interesting. But, what an amazing opportunity to really learn from this amazing teacher, the strategies around entrepreneurship and what to do, what not to do, etc. So that's where it started. And 3 months later, he obviously loved my story, thought I had something different. And, 3 months later, I joined his company, as head of memberships and relaunched a whole membership with him called the Real Success Club. So I was the catalyst that people know the Real Success Club. I was the starting point of the Real Success Club, in 2013. So, so the
I,
history goes back.
Now I can tell you something. I've met Brian Walsh in United States. I've booked tickets to one of the success team events, and I can say that changed my life.
Mm.
That was my click. I always ask people, "What was your click? What was your?" Now I thought I know stuff. I thought I am the best, but then I went there, and then I was like, "Oh Jesus, I have to learn so much." Like I've seen people making
How dumb
500.
am
Oh,
I?
yes. Well, I didn't really wanted to say that, but that was exactly what I said. Oh, Jesus, I'm so stupid. Like, obviously, I'm doing something wrong because I've seen in one of his events how Kane Minkus made 500,000 in half an hour. And
Yeah.
I was, oh, I, I'm definitely doing something wrong, and I have to change my mindset. So I took, instantly, I've took the mentorship from Brian. I took the AI course from Kane, and a few more. Like I've spent about 3,000 on myself, investing in myself, but it really changed my life. So
Probably
guys,
10 times that how much you spent on yourself. We all spend a lot on ourselves when we see somebody that's perceived to be better than us. And I actually want to jump in on that because there are amazing teachers in the world that do have amazing things to teach. It's a very small group of people that actually know. The rest of the people are working it out, and you, as a customer of theirs, not you, Bogdan, but the individual, is a guinea pig. Nobody actually really knows what they're doing. People that say, "Oh, we'll set up your ads and we'll run your ads and you'll get X amount of this and all the rest of it." You know what? Like ads are a total trial and error.
mm,
Like it's absolutely, testing the market and the attraction and what people want and not want. There's no clear cut, oh, we'll just solve this problem for you. And if you look at the testimonials of these companies and these people that work in those companies, you know, it's a very small number of people that get exceptional results. I mean,
mm,
like it's possible, but all the elements and all the stars and everything has to be aligned for that to be an exceptional result. Which I find very interesting. And I think this point about, you know, comparing a job to like an entrepreneur, like you're right. There should be, why did it so difficult for us? Why do we make it so difficult for ourselves? And it's because we're against the grain. We're against the norm. We're not following, normal direction when it comes to doing stuff because we want to change the rhetoric. We want to change the way that things are done. And that's where entrepreneurship I see is most exciting for sure.
for I think, like from my perspective, it was the best investment by far. Like I taking the AI course from, I could see even Kane was still learning at the time because it was just at the beginning. But obviously he was much farther than I was, in his journey. But everything, all the information I've learned, I'm using it. We are still using it even now after 4 years. Now we are looking to get an update. Now let's go back to your stuff
Mm.
because that's what we are going to talk about today.
Yes.
So team up or the AI, can you please repeat the new name, AI?
It is an interesting thing because entrepreneurs go through this process of thinking that you've nailed it, and then the market doesn't respond, or the market responds in a different way than you were hoping.
Mm.
And the key thing about entrepreneurship, and I heard this story. Who said this story? It was Robert Kiyosaki said that, you know, originally I thought that businesses fail because the founder runs out of money. And that was always my approach. It's like, you've got to keep finding money, keep finding money. And Robert Kiyosaki stood on stage. He says, not when you run out of money. It's when the founder runs out of energy. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. It's a very different approach to, this thought process of getting it to work. And yes, there's a time where, companies really are just not good companies. And they just don't provide the right product to the right people, etc., or the timings or for whatever. There's so many variables that take place. And that's why, for me and where my company started 3 years ago now, in November, so 2 months till it will be 3 years old. And, the beginning part of that was all about me spending between 12 and 14 years in profiling. So profiling, for those who don't know, is all about behavioral analysis. It's like understanding someone's, through a questionnaire, understanding someone's behavioral type. And most systems at the moment are backward facing. So you get a test, you get a result, and then you work on that result and what that means for you. So it's all rear facing, Amazon style, all based on your behavior, on patterns that you've done in the past. Nothing is about the future. And, because the software or the thought process or whatever has not been available. So when we started, we were Teamer Resources Limited, and then we built our smartphone app, which was, became Teamer app. And the thought process behind this, and this is a good lesson for people, is that, it stands for the team experience and maneuverability application. But it's complicated. There's nothing simple about it. It's like when people see that name, I have to explain what it is. So when we 2 years ago started using AI in our company, we looked at the available kind of domains and where we wanted to go in the future. And we have Profiletest.ai. And it just, if I say to you, my company is Profiletest.ai, your perception is immediately, oh, these guys do profiling and they do profile testing and they use lots of AI. It's like, okay, great. Very simple, very easy. I don't have to go into an explanation and try and justify what it is. And there's so many interesting parts because, Bogdan, our history is the same. The mission is the same. We're still building the same stuff. We're still doing the most amazing work with our clients and their clients. But it's just about the positioning. It's about the message that becomes what people want. So yeah, and then we went through, this is interesting as well. Another lesson here is that, we went through this process of going like, life would be so much easier if we solved the problem that people woke up at 3 in the morning and was like, this is my problem. If we just started a business that did that, it would be super, super simple. But none of the people that changed the world did that. They didn't just solve simple problems. They took industries and evolved them and democratized them and, shifted power and shifted responsibility and accountability. And that's the essence of what Profiletest.ai is all about. It's about exactly that. It's about taking the power from big companies, adding amazing tools to them, to these tools, amazing tools and features, etc., and making it super simple and super easy to use and implement. And that's the key of what Profiletest.ai is all about.
We are using profile testing all the time. Like when you hire someone, you are taking the CV. The CV, it's a profile of that person. If you think from the information provided on the CV that's going to have a synergy with your company, then you ask the person to come to the interview. If you go in army, there are psychological tests, same for profiling, to see if you are a sociopath or if you are all, if you are in all your, if you are, let's say, if you're not crazy or something. Now, yeah, like when I went to study
between a psychological evaluation, which is if you're crazy or not, and a behavioral analysis. And the interesting thing is that, psychometrics, if you think about the terminology of psychometrics, it really is about answering a set of questions that gives you a specific behavioral pattern and outcome. And I don't know if you know this, but where this started was in World War I, and it was during the Great War, where, people were going to fight at war, and they had limited resources because at that time they didn't really have tanks or that kind of stuff. They had human people, human capital. So when you send a when you know when you train a soldier for 6 months or a year and then you send them into war, they could die the same day. That's 6 months. Yes, the person's life and all the rest of it. From a perspective of management, like that's a huge investment that can just disappear. So when you think about where this started, it was started then, and that's by Myers and Briggs. So now it's referred to Myers-Briggs, but it was Myers and Briggs, two different scientists and psychologists that came up with this pattern. And the whole point of how it was created was about how soldiers will react to shelling. It's as simple as that. When they're shelling, are they going to be cool, calm, and collected and continue the journey, or are they going to go into a ball and just shatter? And that's typically what it was because they didn't need, they could not put people at the front line that were not going to go over the front line. So that's where it started. I know that's bad and it's a terrible thought process. But if you link it back to today, you use profiling in your company, but you have to be a specialist to understand that individual's results. You have to really go, okay, this person's going to fit in this role or not in this role. They're going to do this or whatever it is. Our whole goal is to simplify that, to make it usable so that you could profile somebody and know exactly how successful they'll be in a specific role and for how long as well.
Now, for HR, from my perspective, this is gold because you are guessing now. When you're hiring when you are hiring someone, you are guessing because all what you do, all your decisions are based on the information you have, and the only information you have is maybe their LinkedIn profile or their CV. I remember when, like, I have psychology studies. I think I've mentioned that before. Now, I didn't practice with anything after I finished college. I changed career. So yeah. I'm just trying. Sometimes I remember stuff, not all of it, But what shocked me about profiling was we had to do our practice, our practical experience. And we've been working in the psychiatric hospital in the city I live in. And then we had a test, and the test was like you had pictures, a set of pictures of people, of faces, and you were looking at the faces, and then the stuff was you had to pick the one that you don't like the most. You don't like, not the one you like, but like the one you don't like. And then there are certain, you look at the face and you'll say, oh, I don't like this one. So I've done it, and I've done it properly. I said, let me be honest, because sometimes you're not honest, So I was like, let me be honest on this test and try it on myself to see if it really works. So we've done the profiling. I've done my profiling. And then when I checked the results, I was shocked. Like, it was me as an open book. Everything, and I'm telling you, even stuff that only I knew about myself was available as a result of that test. And I was shocked. I was, oh Jesus, sometimes when you go for, I don't know how is it working in UK or in other countries in Europe, but in Romania, when you go to apply for a job, the HR will come and it will give you a test. So you'll have to fill in a psychological test. They will check you. Now, because I've done psychology before, I knew how to manipulate that. There are different tests, different questions, so I knew how to manipulate that. So if I wanted to have an outcome, I knew how to do that. There are certain tests you cannot manipulate, but I was able to manipulate that. How will the profiling test that AI is going to avoid this manipulation?
It's a very great question. The reality is that people will always try to break things because that's the human nature. They always try to fix things and make it a better outcome. The interesting part about profiling is there's no right or wrong answer. And, if you're doing a test, there's a right and a wrong answer. There's a score and that's the rest of it. But it's about fit. And if you are hiring for, let me give you this example. If you're hiring for a telesalesperson,
Mm,
okay, now the type of profile you need for this is someone that is very methodical. They do the admin. They're very calm and collected on the phone. They don't, go off track. They follow scripts. That it's a very specific function that this type of person is. And profiling is typically done now in the recruitment process after you've shortlisted people based on experience. Our whole mission is about making it a part of the whole ecosystem. So if you were to take the candidate, what if the candidate knew whether they were a fit or not before they even applied for the role? Right? That's one part. The second part is what if the company knew that the people that were applying were an ideal fit for the role in terms of function? Okay, that's a second function. That's a second part. Like it's time saving. Like you cannot believe the amount of time that companies spend disqualifying people because it's so easy to apply these days. Click, on LinkedIn, click, 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 click. You just apply, and there's 70 million people applying for jobs. They just want a job. And our whole approach is thinking a little bit differently. Well, what if they could only apply for the jobs that are really the best jobs for them? Then it's about the right candidate for the right role because they are all going to be a behavioral fit for that function. And when you think about the psychometrics and I want to refer about this part with HR at the moment, and we've interviewed a lot of HR managers. The biggest problem that HR managers have today is that they are just overworked. There's only, the function is a necessity, but it doesn't have priority. It's an interesting thought process because there's always one HR person that's dealing with like 500 staff. It's a cost center, right? It's not a profit center. So it really is a lack of budget that goes to that section. So what happens is they inherit tools, they inherit processes. They don't have the time or the energy or the focus to evolve anything. They're just stuck in their same kind of way. And it takes a leader that's a different leader to say, no, 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 we need to evolve the system. We need to hire better. We have a better structure of this. Because if you don't get it right, what are the problems you're looking at? 50 to 90% of annual average salary to replace a wrong hire. What about the impact the wrong hire has on the team and the company? What about the morale of the people around them, the disruption, the customers? If they're the wrong people, they're going to treat your customers differently. They're not going to be passionate about it. They're going to keep getting distracted, etc. These are huge implications for a company, and the current stats place this at about $8.8 trillion a year that's in lost revenue for hiring wrong people. So it's a big major problem. But if we look
mm,
at the other side of it, like what happens if you hire the right people? Okay. People that are working towards their natural strengths and flow, they'll typically work 30% faster than anybody else that's out of their flow. So you get more production. People are working harder, not because they have to, because they like it and they're good at it and they feel accomplished and they feel that they are having a great impact on the work they do. And that has a huge effect around because if you're working well at work and you're getting paid for the work you do that gets, that's good, and the people around you, your boss, etc., are giving you the recognition you deserve, what happens when you go home? You go home and you have a happy time at home. You don't go home and fight with your partner. You don't go, to the pub and get absolutely smashed. You feel good about it. So what do? You live a better life because you feel like going to gym. You feel like being healthier. You feel like contributing and giving back, etc. So the lasting effect of this is a huge global impact in terms of just putting the right people in the right role.
absolutely amazing.
It's big. It's a big one. And, Indeed actually did a survey recently that over 70% of people, employees, I think they surveyed 10,000 companies. Over 70% of the people that did that anonymous survey, had discontent in the role that they had. They actively disengaged and hate their role. And this is well documented with Gallup, etc. on their annual report. It's a crazy thing that we feel, um, the tools are just they're not in the right place. They're available, but they're not connected. The dots are not connected in the right way to predict this. And that's where we're coming in, and that's what we're trying to do.
How AI is going to disrupt everything else? Like AI, it's a huge thing now, but how AI is going to change everything?
So interesting question, right? And like I had this conversation with my mother-in-law the other day. Bless her soul. She's like, when we were talking about our business and what we do as well, she's like, I'm very scared of AI. And I'm like, well, what are you scared about? It's just it knows too much. And I was like, it knows everything that the internet knows. It's just a smarter way of making it relevant. That's all it is. And AI, from a perspective of engineering, is so clever that it speeds up the process. People are scared they're going to lose their jobs and they're going to whatever. I mean, if you are an accountant and AI can do that faster and simpler than you, then yes, it's a risk. I mean, there's no question. But the whole point of what's happened in all the history of work is that as technology evolves, people evolve. Your career evolves. Things always evolve. Take the example of Airbnb. A great example where
Mm.
what was the story? Okay, at the beginning, before Airbnb, there wasn't really booking sites. There were travel agents or there were estate agents, right? That used to do the booking for you. That's what they did. They connected the landlord with the renter. That's what they did. And that was their main business. Airbnb came along and said, well, actually, what if we took that middle piece out and connected the renter to the landlord and we just facilitated the process? Okay, great. It evolved into that model. Obviously, it didn't start that way, but that's what it became. And if you look at estate agents, there are still estate agents today. They still exist. They're
Mm.
still rental agents. They exist. It's not like they've disappeared off the planet, but the technology has forced them to evolve the way that they work. It's forced them to approach differently, to build more trust, to deal with, finding gaps in that specific market. And that's what AI is going to do. It's going to constantly evolve and erupt the industries so that people have to change. And if you don't change, if you don't want to evolve, if you don't look at how you can improve, etc., then you're going to be left behind. And you're going to get to a point where you don't feel like you fit in. So that's a key point with this whole thing is that AI is not replacing people. It is evolving the technology of how people approach different tasks and different functions.
And I believe the same. I think AI, from my perspective, it is one of the biggest helps the biggest help or the biggest tools I have um,
Yes.
as a use to be more effective, much faster, and complete the tasks in a much better manner. Now, how is going to be the profiling? How is going to be available for businesses? How can they sign in? How
Yeah.
can they use it? And how can they actually start to change the way they do all this process in their companies?
So it's a great question. If you looked at a comparison with a traditional profiling system, Myers-Briggs, disk profiling, insights, whatever it is. These are all great systems, and they really do, when used in the right way, they make an incredible impact on a business. Our goal is not to change that because there are still millions of companies that want the training budget to be used for workshops, for training sessions, for those kind of things. That's I don't see that changing. Where we come in is for entrepreneurs, coaches, HR people that want a different approach. They have a limited budget and they want a response faster, is really where we come in. So if we look at our ecosystem, we have at the heart of everything, or the brand, is Profiletest.ai. The whole meaning behind that is the future of work is predictable. It's like it's all about, knowing in advance, and we can predict that with the work that we do. You go through a test with us, we can tell you everything about, what you'll be successful at, what you won't be, where you'll struggle, where you need help, etc. So this information is already available in the market today through consultants, coaches, that kind of stuff. If you asked a coach to tell you that, they would tell you that. They know this information through the experience that they have, but it's not available for the end user to use. So that's one part. And over this year, because we've been going for 3 years now, our first 2 years of research and development, the beginning of this year, we launched Teamer app, as you referred. And Teamer app is the end user product that is designed for people to be able to measure your happiness score, understanding what parts of your life and business are really rating high and what parts are not, and then the support to make those changes. We have profile tests in there as an aggregator. So that means you can answer some questions and we'll show you the tests that are relevant for you and your industry and what makes sense for you. You can implement those results as well. So you can take the test, implement them, and that's the whole point of Teamer app. And it also works for team leaders. It works for those people that you can create a team and you can get team graphs and things like that as well. And the app is designed to handhold you through the process of testing and seeing where everybody fits. And you create teams that are function based. So you'll create a marketing team, you'll create a sales team, you'll create a whatever team. And the results of that team will be collective, and you'll be able to see how on track or off track you actually are of that specific team. And if you did make the changes recommended, you could increase your productivity, your results, etc., by 20 to 30% is pretty standard. So Teamer app is that, and the heart of everything, and this is the interesting part about this, is the heart of everything we do is called Mind Canvas. And Mind Canvas is our AI brain that we've been building. Now, what Mind Canvas does is it allows us to create tests. It allows us to connect those tests to whatever output we want. So let's say, as an example, let's use one of our clients as an example. The test is called Team Puzzle. The company is Life Puzzle. Very successful coach and trainer in Australia. Her name is Shondell Lebezote. We work with her, and we've supported her with the tools and stuff that we built for her. Mind Canvas, what it does for her is it allows her to really, really create a test, use it with her clients. She can also create custom tests per client. It's completely relevant. It's designed to speed up this whole process. But the AI brain that they use means that we can use those insights for whatever outcome we want. So if we decide, for example, that we're going to plug into a CRM system that she uses, we can do that. If we can give her different graphs and different looks and feels and different statistics, whatever, we can do all that too. So the reason I'm talking about this as a bigger picture is because our goal is not to provide a simple one-size-fits-all approach. It's not what Teamer app is for. It's not what Profiletest.ai is for. And it's not what Mind Canvas is being built for. It's being built to democratize this industry in a way that gives a coach, an entrepreneur, an HR leader, the power to make better decisions about the people that they have around them. And this doesn't just refer about their team, Bogdan, this is about their customers as well, because behavioral patterns are human-based. So if you are clever and you use this not just for your team, but also understanding your customer, you'll be able to understand their approach, their buying patterns, you'll be able to predict their pathways going forward. And if we look at what's happening with companies like Amazon, I say this again, they're backward facing. They show you what's based on what's happened, what you've bought in the past. So they are backward facing AI, whereas our approach is this thought process about, how do we know who you are first and then show you what you need coming up, not what we think you might like to see. So that's where we're going. We are going to be doing another fundraise as well in Q4. We're going to be partnering with the company to do that. And yeah, it's really just about changing the world, and hopefully people can get in touch with us. We'll build amazing systems for them to use for whatever outcome they want. And yeah, can't wait to really, really expand next year.
I can't wait to see how can we integrate it with the WhatsWhat marketplace. That is going to be awesome for the business owners we have. Now,
I think that's the key thing, actually want to touch on that, is like when there's a marketplace, our product is not a product that people will go, I'm going to buy this product and then I'm going to just use it. No. We're not a one size fits all product. We're a subscription-based model that how it works is you book a demo with us. We want to know exactly what you want to create a system for. Now, we've built the technology to build the systems in a few minutes. Like that's what we do with AI. It's so fast. But you've got to build it for the right reasons. And that's the key point. So, if you want to use it for recruitment or training, or you want to use it for leadership training, or you want to use it for a specific industry or niche or whatever it is, it's all possible with Mind Canvas and the system that we're building. So yeah, watch the space.
Oh, amazing. Now, we have only 5 minutes left. I know you have to leave at 10. Quick one. Any advice for the young entrepreneurs or people who are at the beginning of their journey?
All the big teachers will say, find a problem, choose a product that solves that problem, and you'll be a successful entrepreneur. What is a successful entrepreneur? I wouldn't know, because I've started and sold businesses. Do I think that makes me successful? No, I don't think so. I think for me, success is how I've impacted a generation. But that's the type of entrepreneur I want to be. I want to be an enabler, a person that creates a way that people can do stuff better, smarter, make better choices, live a better life. Some people just want to be an entrepreneur that sells Amazon products. That's okay too. There's no one size fits all, and there's no person that knows better than you. Just it's got to feel right. It's got to be the thing that you care about, and I think that's a really important part, of this kind of thing. Yes, it's important to find a problem that you can solve, because if there's a problem that people have that you can solve, people will pay money for it. But you don't have to be super complex in the problems. And I think, as a focus, if you are the type of entrepreneur that wants to change the world, definitely start with a simple cash flow based model that people really want, that you'll get the cash to be able to invest in the development of the big idea. That if I had to do it over again, that's what we would do, because we always invested in the big idea, and big ideas always take longer. Now I'm saying like 5 or 10 times longer than you think, for things to really take place and to evolve. So if I was to do it over again, would have started a cash flow business that generates ongoing cash. We can continue to invest in the big idea and the project. And that's what I would do.
3 minutes, a funny story, an embarrassment moment, or something that was like, oh, I could have done this in a different way.
I think back to, the journey that we've had, and it's been a hard journey. I mean, there's no entrepreneur that will tell you that it's been a straightforward and simple process. There's also nobody that can teach you that there is a simple process. There's methodologies, but as entrepreneurs, we're always trying to follow, what makes sense to us and what we want to achieve. A funny story. Well, my first job is quite a funny story. I was working as a petrol attendant, and albeit our family did luckily own the station, but I was working as a petrol attendant to make extra pocket money, because I was fortunate enough that my parents, we always had to work for our money, even though there was might have been money available. We never had handouts. It was always, we had to get jobs and do stuff for it, which was fantastic. For me, that was great. And I remember filling up this tank of this beautiful Mercedes and closing the cap, and then doing everything, and then they drove off. And then half an hour later, getting a phone call in the office, where I had not put back the cap of the tank into the car. So the customer basically had left with the tank being open, which was a huge safety problem. But that was my first big mistake in life, where I was like, okay, well, I lost that job because I can't do that again. And yeah, that was probably I think on my second day or something.
Oh, I worked in a petrol station too, and one of my colleagues filled in a diesel tank with petrol in a brand new, it was high luxury car, and
Oh my God.
the customer left, and after 500 meters the car stopped, and all night we had to call people with special pumps to take the
Oh my
petrol
God.
out and change everything. No, he was not fired.
That's a really real problem. is like we expect when you drive to a petrol station, you expect them to know, but they're also human. Everyone's human, so mistakes happen, and yeah, it's I think it's definitely a good lesson of slower and more conscious is a really important part, and that's harder with entry level jobs.
Daniel, thank you very much for taking your time for the interview. I hope Team Up and Profiling Test AI is going to get where it's supposed to be, leaders of the market. Thank you for everything. I wish you luck in everything you do. Talk soon.
Thank you. And we have an exciting future ahead of us as well as we move forward. So thank you so much, Bogdan, and good luck to you too.